This
Click on your
conference will
camera.
now be recorded.
Yeah, if you would like to be seen, click on the camera and that will light you up. It didn't seem to be lighting me up. Now, here we go. Let's see if anything happens here. Well, it doesn't seem to be showing my picture, but I see.
I can see you.
Okay. Well, we've got Frank and Mark Adeletta and Ann Reed and Adele and Lois and Teresa and Tuffy. Who's Tuffy? Mute yourself, Tuffy. Monica, I see you. Patty, I see you. Teresa, yep. And Shannon, yep.
There are two people on the telephone. If you're on the telephone, could you identify yourself, please?
One of those is me. The 917 area code is me.
I can't see numbers. All I can see is caller 04 and caller 06.
I don't know if I'm 04 or 06, but
Well, just tell me who you are. I'll figure it out.
Mark Adeletta, I'm on twice.
Hi, Mark. How are you? Good. Now, give me a second. I'm going to put you on mute and go to the other caller, if you don't mind. Easier said than done. Okay. Is there another person on the phone?
I see two, caller 04 and caller 06.
Yeah, caller 04 is providing a lot of really interesting feedback. Can you speak at all there, or is it just a feedback loop?
Is that me, Seth?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. That's Joe Michelli. I'm on my phone and my computer.
Okay. You should hang up one of them or mute one of them because
okay,
it's providing.
I'll hang up the phone. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and I'm now going to unmute Mark. My mouse will start working. In the meantime, we got another caller.
Yep, I'm in Cecil.
Is that Mike? Okay, great.
Is that you, Mike?
It is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it looks like we've got a quorum.
Wait.
I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. Do us a huge favor, Cecil, and start recording.
Oh, it's already started.
Oh, I mean, we got all of the good stuff.
We've got all of the interesting
already. All right. Okay, well, this is a meeting of the Rules Committee, a regular meeting of the Rules Committee of the Representative Town Meeting, Darien. I'm going to call a meeting to order and ask for a motion to approve the minutes of September 1, 2020. Just remember, if you're going to move that, please just unmute yourself and then remute yourself so we don't get the dog barking in the background, etc.
I'll move the motion, Patty Baumgartner.
Thanks, Patty.
I'll second it, Lois.
Okay. Any corrections, additions, whatever? I don't hear any, so all those in favor of accepting the minutes, please unmute yourself and say aye.
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 Okay, I hear no no's. I'll listen again carefully for a no. I'm sorry, did I hear a no? Did I hear an abstention? Any abstentions? Abstention you could record with Mark later if you weren't here for the meeting or something. Okay, this afternoon, I have a request of you. late this afternoon, I received a request that we add a item to our agenda, the sewer bond. And I sent the background out to you all. I hope you had a chance to see it. The town administrator and the town finance officer apologize for the delay in getting this out to us, but they do want to have it on the agenda of the October 19 meeting. So I'd like to add that to our agenda tonight. Could I have a motion, please, to add the sewer bond to our agenda tonight?
I'll make the motion, Seth.
Can I have a second, please?
Second it.
I got Pat. Oh, I'm sorry. You're supposed to say who you got. I just saw Patty. Who'd you get on that, Seth? On the second?
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
I saw Patty, but I'm not supposed to say who seconded. You are.
Oh, it might have been Patty. Did that sound like you?
It was me and then Monica. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Okay, good. So we have a second. Any objections or anything? Okay. I think, again, because we're a small group, I'll go ahead with a voice vote and say, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Mark, Teresa had to go off.
Okay. Frank? Oh, okay. I think Frank was a yes. All right. Any no's? I don't hear any objections, so we will add the sewer bond onto the agenda. The first item on our agenda is just a discussion of the virtual meeting of the RTM and sort of how to manage it. Kate was kind enough to write a summary of notes that she received, and I was going to sort of follow that as for points of discussion. Doesn't mean that's all of them. We can add some too, but at least this is an outline. I thought it raised a lot of the questions that I had heard, so I thought it's a good place to start anyway. You all have a copy of the notes from Kate Bush.
Yes.
I'll just take the nose. All right, it sounds like we do. Just walking through this, the roll call could have been better. And so Kate's suggesting that we just go back to her reading out who's there. And that saves us having to get a response back. She can see who's there. And then if somebody feels that they were left out, they still have the ability to raise their hand to be recognized. And it's up to myself and those of us running the meeting to try and go slow enough so we don't leave somebody out or miss somebody. Any comments, please?
That, as Adele, that kind of makes sense to me. I was a little frustrated because I think there was a delay on the unmuting when she was calling the roll, which is understandable. Not likely to be perfect. So the other way seemed to work better for me.
Okay.
Well, the iPhone calling in, I got the same message that Jim Cameron got, that you were, and I sent a copy of it to you, Seth, that you were unable to, the organizer was not allowing you to unmute.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
And it seemed like a common problem among people calling in on an iPhone.
All right. So I'm making a note to work with, with Kate and with you guys on getting it. It's a technical problem. And we'll work on getting that resolved as it can be. You know, I don't know. What do you think, Cecil?
I'm sorry, I lost the thread of it. What, this is
I'll
the
tell you
roll
what,
call?
Cecil, it's Adele again.
Hi, Adele.
Remember, I was paranoid because I thought that, you know, I wasn't going to be unmuted because I was on an iPhone, and I was having that unmuting problem. So I sent Cecil a message and said, please unmute me when I knew I had to speak. So anyway, that brings you into the discussion.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind that. In terms of the roll call, I think, you know, that was, I'm sorry to be, just say this aloud, I found it very tedious and difficult. And I think partly it was the whole business of people, you know, not thinking to unmute themselves before they spoke. And because nobody can be seen, it's really not possible to tell who is speaking if they're not unmuted. There were a lot of problems that I observed in the questions of people saying, "Hey, did I get recognized?" I saw a lot of that in the questions and comments, and I passed those along as quickly as possible to Kate, and because I'm able to chat with her back channel when I'm there as an organizer, which nobody else can do. So I think it's very important, if you think you're not being recognized, to shoot a text into the chat stream. Also raising hands. I'm not sure raising hands is still understood as a practical matter, how that works.
No, this gets a little farther down the line, but I think Kate's agreed to have a practice session, if you will, so that people can work on understanding how the hand raising works, because hand raising really seems to be the best way for us to recognize people and to unmute them at that point and let them speak. Otherwise, with 100 people, we just get a lot of background.
Right. I think part of the reason that the organizers will mute everybody is with that many people, if you have someone who's unmuted and having a conversation with his or her spouse, it comes through. And they just need to be muted. And when you're looking at a list of 90 people, it's very difficult to figure out who's doing that. And so the simplest thing to do is to mute everyone and say, hey, if you are having a conversation with someone else or watching the TV, please mute yourself.
Well, I think in this case, what we would do is start with a mute and
right.
people to raise their hands to be unmuted. And then
like Monica's raising her hand.
And then have Kate will be reading aloud who she sees at the meeting.
Right.
It's easier to go that way. I mean, I look at my screen here, I've got 13 folks, and but I could read off in a second everybody that I see here.
Well,
So,
you understand that Kate is not seeing what you're seeing right now. She does not see images of everybody.
no, I don't have images myself. All I have is names and abbreviations.
That's interesting. Hi, Monica.
I actually do have a question going back to the roll call. Can I just suggest that we've had a few different ways of doing this? We had first name, we had last name, then we had by district. I think if we stick with one method, it'll save people from wondering if they were called.
I agree.
No, that was the idea when I was talking to Kate about how to solve this. She said that she could read them off. I believe she said she could read them off alphabetically.
I like district personally. I thought district we're used to being called off in district. And I think that if we.
That down as a note. I don't know if she can, but I'll.
She did it last time. That's how she did it.
Oh, okay.
She didn't do it.
She did it via district. Yes.
I agree with Patty. It makes much more sense.
All right, so we'll look at by district reading them off. Okay.
Wait, Wait, I actually kind of don't agree with that, because if you come into it, you don't know unless everybody says, Monica McNally, District 2, you don't know if you're jumping into this meeting, which district is being called, because we don't know everybody that's in every other district, but you know where you fall alphabetically. So my thought would be it might be more efficient to do it alphabetically, respectfully pointing that out.
I don't know where I fall alphabetically compared to everyone else.
Repeat, as in Pat.
You'd be in the bees.
So I know I'm in B's, but I don't necessarily, yeah, that's if we did B's. I've been on a call where they did it by P's and they did the first name, and that made no sense. So whatever we do, I don't care what we're doing. I was just giving my feedback. I felt that districts made sense, and then you go through it alphabetically within your district. That's how we do it normally.
I don't think they can.
I don't think you can. I think she doesn't know who's in what district. She's working off of who's showing up on a
She
phone
did it
list.
the last meeting. She did it by district.
That was because somebody was reading the district lists, and that's why everybody was responding. It wasn't, I believe it wasn't Kate that was doing the attendance. It was
Correct. It was, yeah, it was Carolyn.
It was
Karen.
Karen.
Oh, it was Karen.
No, in the last meeting, Karen did it read it off by district, and then looked for a response for each person that they were there, they were present, and that just took an eternity. But prior to that, Kate, the prior meeting, which I think was the budget meeting, Kate just read off the names that she saw in attendance, and then said that I essentially went back and said, now, did anybody not have their name called?
And I think she did it first alphabetically by first name, because that's the way it showed up.
Yes.
That's what I thought was very odd.
Well, that's the
Right.
way it shows up on the list on the screen, unfortunately.
Yeah,
The software does it that way.
Alphabetic first name.
we would need to let everyone know that in
Yeah.
advance.
And that's the point. Is having a pre-meeting disclosure about how we're working and what the process is, so that everybody will know what we're doing. And Kate's very much in favor of that. She will do that.
Seth, that makes sense to me. If that's how it's published for Kate, it is an organized list. Once we all know the ground rules, we all know the sequence. And that way you will know if you were missed, or if it doesn't show up on her list because you dial in and you're just a number. That gives those handful of people the opportunity to say they were missed. It's some sort of structure. It allows her to go through the names expeditiously.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
what I'm suspecting, Seth, is that probably we need to put together a 5 or 10-minute video that's people can watch at their own in their own timing, that says, okay, this is how you raise your hand, this is how it looks to an organizer, and if you need to get somebody's attention, here's the way you send a message to one of the organizers. You know, not anything grand, but just a screen recording of how to do basic things.
All right. We have enough time to do that.
I think it's probably very difficult to say, okay, we're going to do a practice meeting at such and such a time and expect that most people will be able to get to that. That's the only reason I'm thinking of it that way.
All right. We'll dialogue about the content of the video too, to make sure we don't miss something. All right.
Right.
All right. And I'll talk to, this will be a surprise to Kate, but that's all right. She's had a few today already. All right. Good. So that's the roll call. Voting really went well, I thought. Just that polling software really works. And I thought it went very well. It takes out, it just takes out a lot of interference. I'll call it that. Just static if you want. It puts it up there, everybody pushes the button, and that's it.
It happens really quickly.
Yeah, so I think we got the solution there. There are some people who come in by phone, not many as I understand it, but some. And we could establish that they could email Karen with their vote if they were having a problem voting through their iPhone.
Seth, can I make you a
I could
suggestion?
allow a 5-minute time period. Say you've got 5 minutes to get your email out to Karen so that she can count you.
I would recommend if you have the stomach for it, that you say, hey, calling in by telephone isn't attending any more than if you had a live meeting, calling in by telephone would be attending. You know,
Well,
if you can't attend via the software, well, you can listen in just as you could watch it on TV 79, but watching it on TV 79 doesn't give you the ability to vote.
right. That's a simple solution.
Seems a bit harsh.
I agree.
Well, I'm not sure why it's harsh. I mean, is it that difficult to log on to the webinar? One of the things about logging on to the webinar is that you have to register in advance for that, so you know who it is who has said at least that they will come. Whereas dialing in, you don't have a clue.
Right.
I'm not a member of the Rules Committee, so you can feel free to ignore me entirely.
But thankfully, we have 2 people on with us who are technically savvy on this software, and half of what we're discussing is sort of relates to, well, what are our technological capabilities and how easy is it for the RTM to pick up on it? I agree. I don't want to exclude people, but I'm also just wondering how many people were coming in on their phone for their own convenience, and how many would, if we just said, hey, look, I'd like to help you, but coming in by phone is not going to work. If you want to you want to attend, just like if you wanted to attend a town hall, you've got to come in through the technology that we have for it. Is that, and I have some thoughts.
I think that's
Adele thinks that that's just fine. I guess that's assuming that every person has either a smartphone or a computer. If you don't, you're dialing in on a regular landline, and then you would not be able to vote. And I would hate to exclude somebody's vote because they didn't have the technology. I wouldn't have a problem if somebody was just doing it for convenience.
If they can't get in, they've got a problem anyway. Whether it's
No.
they don't have a phone or a computer, an issue.
the downside of trying to manage the phone people is that it eliminates the polls as a voting method. It eliminates the hand raising as a way of getting attention. And it pretty much throws it into a free-for-all of people trying to talk over one another. I just think it's unmanageable.
Hi guys, it's Shannon. I agree with Adele that I don't think that we should. I know, for instance, I know one member of the RTM that does not have a cell phone. And I think not a computer. But that said, why couldn't we cobble the two? And this would be a question maybe for you, Cecil. I loved the poll. It was so efficient and smooth. Why couldn't we take that poll number and then add on the phone votes?
Oh,
I know that's not super clean, but is that an option?
Again,
You're saying maybe after the poll you would actually by voice poll the people who are on telephone?
No, let
Potentially. Yeah.
No, the solution that I had for that was to have them email Karen. Because there's only when.
But if they don't have a computer, they can't email.
Email, yeah.
Yeah, then email. Yeah.
If you're going to do email, they've already got to have a computer or a smartphone.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's not really an excuse.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yep.
True.
Okay, folks. Yeah, I mean, the easier way to do this is just simply to say, you got to use the software, because just as if you had to show up in person at town hall, same idea.
And that we have a help desk of sort, that week before or from the warning
yeah.
onward to help you do that, right?
Yep.
We could have people available.
Yeah, let us know if you've got some big, a real hardship. We'll try and find a way. But right now, the way it is now, to play, you've got to have some way to access the software.
Seth, maybe once a month, if somebody really doesn't have a phone or computer and can't go to someone else's house in COVID, maybe the library could loan them a computer or something like that. I mean, if it's a very
that's
specific
true. They
day.
could actually, well, of course, at that hour of the night.
No, I mean, you just do it for 2 days. We just have to take it on as a responsibility to help that person out. So I think
Yeah.
the polling would be who isn't able to do it by computer.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Let me offer one other alternative, Seth. I'm not crazy about this, but it would also be possible, I suppose, for in advance somebody to name let's say a buddy, who the person who can't come in by computer will call that person on the telephone, and that person will represent the person on the phone for anything important. I don't quite know how you would do the polling with that, though.
Yeah, you can't. That's we've sort of heard that because
never mind. Ignore me.
No, I'm not. I'm listening very carefully, but I've also got a few years here or there of scars for things that we thought about and tried. We tried voting by proxy, and that no one is going to allow that. Okay. Good. So I think we've got a direction on that. We've included trouble accessing the meeting in this, really, and we definitely want to do a practice session. Having a pre-meeting announcement to work on raising hands, I think because that keeps it current and clear. If you do it a week ahead of time, by the time you go around to the meeting, no one can remember. Wait a minute, if I press what does that do again? So I think hand raising is something that has to be in the pre-meeting announcement. Any other thoughts?
Seth, one of the big things that shows up in the questions is members speaking for other members saying, hey, so-and-so called me, they can't get in. And as we know from the meeting tonight, sometimes you can't get in for whatever reason. In general, with GoToWebinar, all you should have to do is click on that link and it should kind of magically happen. But if you don't have the software installed, or it's not clear to you what the message means that you want to come in by video.
Well, that's where the practice session, I think, comes in.
Practice is important.
So we got to have the practice session. Because I think that addresses it directly in a couple of ways. Good. So the other thing is that if there's an emergency or something, and somebody just cannot seem to get recognized or whatever, we really want them to be able to send an email to Karen and use the email to Karen as a way to do that. If you're looking in a couple of different places to see who's dialoguing, it's very difficult to do when you're running the meeting. And so when people have questions, they should be able, through the hand raising, to get their questions answered. But if there's just some outlying crazy, something goes wrong, I think we would direct them toward sending an email to Karen and asking to be recognized. Any thoughts on that?
It is my belief that every question got answered in that meeting, by the way.
I think so, because I try and pause, like a while, just to make sure we're collecting everybody.
Seth, I believe the chat function is there for people to ask questions, and that's what Cecil monitors. I mean, that's the way the software
That
is
is
structured.
exactly right. And I make a very, very big effort to make sure that everybody's question gets answered. Even when I don't actually understand it, I will go back and say, sorry, I don't know what you mean. Can you come forward a little?
But I would prefer to stay away from using the chat because no one can see the chat. I would much prefer to have people recognized by raising their hand and verbally state their case.
No, Seth, I agree with you. I'm just saying that if some reason they're not recognized, that they
Right.
could send a message through the chat to say, hey, I need to be recognized, not here's the question I wanted answered through the chat. That's what I was implying.
Well, I was trying to funnel all of that stuff onto one platform. I'm just trying to think of confusion or in missing, and having the chat going at the same time as people are sending in emails. And the idea would be to have it all in by email. It also gives people who are there by phone or whatever the ability to be able to communicate as well. I mean, if you really, I think it will work. Most of the time, we want it verbal. There may be exceptions, and that's what the email would be for. Any other thoughts or?
I will just say, for example, at the last meeting, Mark Adeletta couldn't get through, so Mark texted me. 2 or 3 other people did, and I used that chat form to send a note to Cecil or whomever saying Mark Adeletta is trying to get through and he can't. And I listed 2 or 3 people along, and I felt like because I could see it on the chat area, I knew it was going to get through. I don't necessarily know where Karen is, if she's on the meetings and if the emails are getting through, but I could see it on the chat. So I felt confident it was getting through.
Well,
Just my 2 cents. It doesn't matter.
so that yeah, I just
That's not a question.
some of the folks that have been running this have said when we get into 3 ways, where I'm watching the screen and I'm looking for hands and I'm looking for chat and I'm checking my emails, it's
Seth, you should never be looking for chats. You've got other stuff to do.
no, I'm not thinking about me. I'm thinking about you, or,
Well,
or Cecil, or who, or Kate, or Karen.
I'm sorry, I've lost track of what it is we're trying to address via chat versus what, raising a hand.
Somebody felt that they didn't get recognized. Their hand wasn't recognized.
Right, and are we looking for a backup in case a hand can't get raised, like the chat?
No, it's a backup in case somebody. We're assuming they can get it raised. They press the button. Yep. They should be able to get it raised.
Right.
They're either on the phone or somebody didn't see the hand.
Right, but just a moment ago, I thought we were going to require everyone to come in via the platform and therefore not on the phone unless. So if that's what we agreed to, we don't have that issue anymore.
Except that they had to have a emergency. I was just trying to think of an emergency way you could get in touch. But because you're on the system, you raised your hand, but you didn't get recognized. And so how do you deal with that? And I had the email channel for somebody sending in well, we're not going to have, we won't have that because the only way you can vote is through the system. So
I genuinely think that chat is better than email.
All right.
I do too, and I'm trying to remember why I didn't do a chat when I was having trouble getting in. Oh, because I was having trouble getting in. Was I not in or was I mute? On mute. I was on mute, wasn't I, Pat?
My recollection is that Patty was reaching out for you because you actually weren't in.
Okay, is that what it was? Yeah.
Now, the issue, of course, is there's nothing that we can do to get you in. It's, the call has to be initiated, or the hookup has to be initiated on your side.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, anything else? All right. So, I have the roll call with Kate reading aloud, alphabetic.
First name.
She doesn't, she doesn't know it, but she is.
It's that listed as first name, so
Yeah, I
everyone
do. I have
knows.
first name. I'll circle first name in my notes there.
Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Adaletta is going to hold me to the fire on this. The only way to vote will be through the system. We will have a practice session so that people can test out getting up on the system. To be recognized, you'll need to raise your hand. That will be the methodology. And you can use the chat if you get into an emergency where you just don't feel like you got recognized, or your question didn't get figured out. Does that reasonable, or does that sound like a summary?
Yes.
Can I make one suggestion on the raise the hand? If you can be real specific, that it's the icon you have to click on in the upper left side. It shows you're raising the hand. Otherwise, it's doing
Not
it.
that. That's a good point, Pat. I think there's some people that don't realize there's a raise your hand
I think you're
function.
right.
Well, that comes under the pre-meeting announcement carefully. And
One
all
other thing,
would be covered in the practice session as well.
one other thing, Seth, in general, the online meeting, Kate starts probably 15 minutes before the actual scheduled meeting time. And it would really be useful if people could, just do the testing about getting hooked up during that 15-minute period of time. We could even extend it if it needed to be longer than that.
Right.
But once the meeting starts, it gets very difficult.
Yeah, I agree. Somebody rolling in, 10, 15 minutes later, blah, not good. Okay. Good, I've got that note. Wonderful, folks. Thank you. I will work to get all of this organized, and it's a great, this is the great way to solve it. I tried to not have to have a meeting with 13 of us trying to figure this out, but I got overruled by town council. He has all his years in the state legislature, his language extremely clean, and he said, there's no way that you can do that. You have to have a meeting. So here we are. And as it turned out, it was all for the better, because the sewer, the next item.
Can you just, Seth, it's Adele. I just wanted to make sure that you underlined in your notes where the little bit where we said that with the iPhones, the unmuting didn't work. We were not able to unmute ourselves. So we were talking about right at the very beginning of our discussion. Someone, was it Mike, mentioned the technical glitch he thought was there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just don't want that to get lost.
Yes.
That is right, because that all of what we just described doesn't solve that problem, and there was a bunch of us that had that problem on the last.
Well, we've solved it. We say you can't use a phone. So that's
No. Hang on.
You have to be able to use your iPhone.
Yeah, the iPhone app, and I was on a tablet, and I had the same issue. I was on an iTablet or an Apple tablet. And it had the problem. So it's an Apple issue. It's not a phone.
all right.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Is that something that Seth, you and Mike Wheeler and I could test in advance?
Yes, sir.
Actually, is this the same platform we use for the RTM right now that we're using?
Yes,
I'm having-
No, it is
No,
not.
use
No.
the
Okay,
webinar.
on my tablet today, well, on my,
oh,
on my-
all right, it's,
Yeah,
it's,
webinar,
ours is
and-
go to,
This is a go-to-meeting.
oh, okay.
It's a more advanced, when you have a bigger group of people where it's more of a lecture.
Yep.
What you've done
It
is
is really very
webinars.
different.
That's a big glitch if they haven't solved that.
Yeah, that's why I'd like to test it, because
Yeah.
that seems to me to be a big oversight.
Right, but it sounds like that's what the issue was on the last call, for
Well,
sure.
I think what we need to do is to test it and see if we can figure out what's going on. We'll do a go-to webinar, and I don't know for sure whether Seth has an iPhone, but I do it. I'm pretty sure Mike does.
Yeah, you can use me too. I've got an iPhone and an iTablet. Or
Okay.
an Apple tablet, so I've
Well,
got-
yeah, probably be a good idea to get a tablet in there as well.
great, okay, good. Okay, thank you, Adele, yeah. All right, next item is, the parking space lease. And that has gone, it's just sitting there. It hasn't moved.
Hey,
There
Seth?
Be on a phone call Thursday to try and take it to a different level. But if I were to bet on this one, I don't know, there just doesn't seem to be, there's urgency from Darienne's standpoint, but trying to get the MTA to move, it's been a little slow, as I understand it. We have F&B primary and then Public Works and Planning, Zoning and Housing. In order to have this on the agenda, because the RTM voted it, it is on the RTM agenda. But whether we will do anything with it would require that we get an agreement, I think, sometime, an actual written lease that's been approved. It has to go through the Board of Selectmen, which it has not done. Probably has to go through the Board of Finance, which it has not done. So, and then it comes to us. Having all that happen before the 19th, and also give time for our committees to look at the thing. Many met on this subject, but they have to have the lease, and you got to go through the lease page by page to know what it says and whether or not you agree with it. So each one of these committees is going to have to meet to go over it. And so, there is some question about whether this ever makes it to the October meeting. I did tell town council that if it doesn't make that, you're going to be in the state of the town in December. So he understands the urgency of the thing moving along. That's just sort of an update from me, and I'll keep you apprised as this thing, right now, it's right about where it was when we had our last, our RTM meeting. The final thing is,
I have a question on that.
say again?
I have a question on that. It's Lois.
Oh, yes, Lois.
Can we establish a cutoff? I mean, at what point, is this just whether you get the information, or do we have a time frame that we need the information by, or it goes off? How do you want to work that?
Well, we can set a time limit. We can look at the 19th and say, we're sitting here on the 5th. To me, you would have to have this thing done by what, the 12th, huh? The 12th at the best.
Does the Board of Finance meets on Tuesday, right? So would it be the 13th? I mean, it has to go by everybody, or just it has to be in that?
Yeah,
time?
no, it's got to go by them, and it's got to go by the Board of Selectmen.
I think Monica wants to say something.
Monica
You're muted.
They're the parking authority, so, I mean, it's sitting here right now, I'd say it looks like a squeeze. But I would say that we could vote tonight to set a deadline The Rules Committee has say over the agenda. It's a little tense. It could be a little dicey because the RTM actually voted to put it on the agenda for their next meeting. So, which sort of bypasses the Rules Committee. But
RTM?
the Rules Committee, they dealt with it with the facts that were in place at the time. And it looked like we had a lot of time, and it's looking less like we did. So I think the Rules Committee would be in its rights to say, no, we can't deal with this in the time frame. So do we say the 14th?
Hey, Seth.
Yeah.
Hey, Seth. Jack isn't on tonight, right?
No, he's apparently not feeling well.
Okay, so I did ask Ed, as of today, there's no contract. The initial contract was sent out August 13th. The Board of Selectmen said on September 14th that this needed to come back before them. I don't see why we need to put a deadline on it. We had 3 committees meet on this, and all 3 said if there's no contract, we can't vote on it. So I don't see the necessity for putting a deadline on it. And I totally agree with.
Well, no, I mean, I agree with you, Monica. The RTM could just simply say, no, that's not ready. We're not, you know.
I think we get agreement from all the committees on that. And I also agree with Jack 100% that we should ask the Board of Selectmen respectfully to actually have a vote on this before they send this to us. Maybe the horse is out of the barn, but it would be great not to have another bag ban situation where we're working with unclear directives.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. But this thing can't be done without Board of Selectmen approval and sending it forward. Because
okay,
their approval of this thing, means the wording's straight, the terms are correct. This is what they agreed to. And without that, what have you got?
Okay. Okay, as long as we get a vote on it, instead of just imagining that we know what they want.
No, that won't work.
No? Okay. I tried, Jack.
You and I'll talk.
Okay.
Absolutely, no way. All right, well, we'll see where this thing goes. What I don't want to have happen is them roll into us on Friday, the 16th, with a, say, we passed it. Here, guys. And my point at that, my ruling on that would be no way. There's no time for our committees to study it and to make their own determination. Okay. Well, I think we've got an agreement on that.
Can I just say one last thing though, Seth?
Please.
That the committees all seem to have similar concerns along with P&Z. And I think those concerns were pretty well sent on to Kate and Ed for the contract. So I think that should we actually get something, it might not take as long as we expect, as long as we have also Jack's other questions answered, which the big one for me is the legality of doing a lease when we actually subletting, when we actually don't have a lease in the first place. But I'm sure that will be addressed.
Yeah, I'll send you a note that we got this afternoon from town council.
Okay, that would be, thanks.
Can you send it to all of
I
us,
don't want to
please?
get into all of that now, but he wrote a long letter to Jack with copies to Jamie and to me, and just going over some of the legal points. All of the reservations expressed by the committees were passed on and were part of the transmittal to the MTA. So they know what they're dealing with. They're saying these comments are coming from the town legislature as well as the Board of Selectmen. So, All righty.
Seth, it's Mark. I would welcome a copy of that write-up that describes how the town has the right to sublease something it doesn't lease.
Yep.
Could you please send it to our whole rules committee? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I would have sent it out, but I literally just got it this late this afternoon. Okay. Last item is the sewer bond. Assignments. F&B first, Public Works, or Public Works and F&B?
Which item is this, Seth? I'm sorry, I spaced.
Bonding.
Thank you.
Can I, Seth, I have a, Lois, I have a question.
It's bonding for the sewer.
But has the project been approved through the normal process, through the budget or
Yes,
anything?
it has. Yeah, Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finances approved in September, and somebody in Town Hall forgot to send it to us.
Yeah,
So-
it's been all through the processes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seth,
Yes.
can I say that this is a 3 to 4 year or 3 to 4 phase project over 8 to 10 years. This will be a lot of money in the aggregate, and while sewer is important to Public Works, I think that F&B should be the lead. We're looking at a lot of money.
Okay. Any other thoughts from anybody? Okay, make F&B primary.
Wait, Seth, Lois has something.
Yes, Lois.
Well, I want to make sure I understand. So the need for the project has already been established, and all we're really doing is doing the bonding, or has the financial commitment to do the project? I guess, has the financial commitment to do the project already been established? Because if the purpose of this is to establish the need for the project and do bonding, then I would say Public Works is first. But if we've already agreed that the project has been approved by all the appropriate bodies, and this is really a bonding issue, then it makes sense to me that F&B is the lead.
Thing has been approved by the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, Ed went before both of them and explained it. And that we're scheduled to get a grant, and we're working with a consultant, and to keep the ball moving down the field, we need to pass this resolution, but it has been thoroughly vetted.
Okay, so I'm going to go with the Chair of Public Works recommendation and recommend to you F&B primary and Public Works second.
Well, wait a second. Mark, can you weigh in on this? Do you agree with that?
I do. It's already been decided. The merits of the project have already been decided, right? This is just how to fund it.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Oh, wait, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you get a report on it for sure, but the merits of the project have come and gone.
Do you need somebody to move the motion?
Yeah, I do need a motion to
Mark will move.
sewer bond to
The primary and Public Works secondary.
I'll second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 This is Frank.
Hey, Frank, I got you. All right, noes, please.
On the secondary, who's on secondary? I heard
Monica.
Monica, thank you.
Public Works, yeah. All right, any noes? Don't see any, hear any? Okay. Passes. All right, setting the agenda for the October 19 meeting. The lease is on there, and I mean, the RTM voted to put it on. So, but it's perfectly easy if it's not ready just for me to get up. And since we have to have the meeting anyway, if we were just going to have this lease and nothing else for the RTM meeting, and I most likely would probably cancel the meeting. But for two reasons. One is it probably would not be ready. And number two, the urgency is not. So that would be the first, and then the sewer bond second. You'll have a motion in favor of that, please?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. To Dell.
Okay. Any further comment?
I have a comment, Seth. So what is for the lease, what is the wording?
It's the same that was just updating, it's approval of the lease parking space to the MTA based upon a lease agreement, which we would have to have. And would have to have been passed by our committees to at least to look at and make a determination, which means it would have to get through the Board of Selectmen and it would have to get through the Board of Finance. Otherwise, I would say I would move to have it taken off by the RTM.
Would it be perhaps a little clearer if we just took it off?
Well, I heard earlier that somebody said, well, why don't we just, wait and see? No need to put a deadline on it or whatever. I mean, there's the Rules Committee has the power to say, look, we don't see how you get it done in the time frame here. My thought is this, that there's really not a need to take it off right now. And the reason is because we're going to have a meeting anyway on the sewer bond. So it's fairly simple just to get a motion to drop this from the agenda for the RTM. I don't think we'd have any problem with it at all.
Seth, I have a question though, to Monica's point, if you're given the lease on the Friday prior to our RTM meeting, that does not give Monica's committee, which is Public Works, which was spent a lot of time doing this, doesn't give F&B and then probably PZ&H any real time to do diligence on what any changes have occurred on the lease. And
so what you're saying is, look, somebody pulls something, they try, they're not trying something. They're saying, well, we finally got it done. Will you guys act on it? You could say, well, if we don't get it by a certain period of time, we haven't got time to act on, at least on getting a review of it. But then we got to come up with kind of like a date, huh? I mean, theoretically, if you got it on Friday, you could read it over the weekend. You could have a meeting on the 19th, and before the RTM meeting, and theoretically you could approve it.
Nah, that won't happen, Seth.
PZ&H has a tentative meeting scheduled for the 14th.
Which for the 14th? I'm sorry.
PZ&H has a tentative meeting set for the 14th in case this came up.
is there timing urgency to this to vote on it for this month versus next if we don't have the lease? Like, we're understanding there's a timing urgency tied to the bonding, but is there a timing? Is there a specific reason that it needs to get in?
No, not that I've seen. Because I'll tell you, if there was a fire burning on this thing, they want to get it done, we'd be looking at it now. Because remember, we put a deadline on it in a sense. We said, all right, we'll move it to the next meeting. And they're still sitting with it and won't really have any serious conversation on it till Thursday. And then you've got to draft, I don't know, they have to draft the agreement up and then get it out in front of the Board of Finance to approve. I don't know how fast they could really expect to turn it around. It's an interesting call. So the 14th puts us on Wednesday, huh? You couldn't, you can vote. You could vote to withdraw it if we don't have the lease agreement by the 14th.
I'd like to make a motion to do that. But I'm not even sure if I want to make a motion to do that with a date, so sorry.
You just want to, you have a motion just to pull it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you give me that motion again, please?
Well, first, Seth, I want to understand, we set the agenda for the RTM meetings. So how is this, how can we not change that agenda when we haven't even set it yet?
Well, because the RTM in its last meeting voted to put it on their agenda at the next meeting. So,
Was that the
it's
wording?
interesting. I don't know. I could get to where you want to go with it. And, you know, if there's an issue on it, I'll let you know. It's an interesting question.
Monica, you've studied it the most besides Jack, so I would follow your lead probably.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to table this until we have the complete document in front of us and enough time to study it.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. So that means that you have the wording, Mark.
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Second.
Okay. You did get a second. Thank you very much. Okay. No more discussion. Those in favor, please.
Aye.
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 Brett says aye.
Aye.
Okay. I think I got everybody voting. Any noes, please? All right, it's unanimous. We voted to MTA. We voted, I guess, not to put it on the agenda.
Perfect.
Okay. Great. So the only item that we will have is the sewer bond. Good. That's it. Now, Mark just did, so I didn't miss a trick here. Did we vote? Did we finally vote we voted to take the lease off the agenda, but did we vote the agenda for the 19th as being the bond?
No, we didn't.
Muted.
Mark, unmute yourself. There you go.
Yes, now you can hear me. So we did not vote it. We simply, yes, so now all we have on there is the sewer bond item.
Okay, so I will ask for a motion to
Yeah, we have,
for the
Yeah, I guess we do need new motion because we had the original motion was for both items on there, which we never
Okay,
voted. We need a new motion.
so can I have a motion to set the October 19 RTM meeting agenda to be the sewer bond?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second?
Can I ask a question first? Yeah,
Yes, question.
since everyone's going to assemble for one subject that's going to go relatively quickly, but we have the state of the town coming up. I saw the Darien Health Director do a meeting with a lot of valuable information. Is there someone, some group that we could ask for an update as long as everyone's assembled on something that's important that might not be covered at the state of the town 2 months later? I don't want to cover something that is going to be covered 2 months later, but is it a COVID update or some other information, rather, because everyone's going to be gathered for 10 minutes.
True.
I'm sorry, this may have been addressed earlier. Is the sewer bond item, we did say that was time sensitive, right? I remember hearing it, but I don't remember how time sensitive it was.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, Ed would like us to move on that.
Oh, did he? Thank you.
Well, listen, I have some latitude if somebody has that has something that would be could be helpful or of interest. I can always have it under announcements.
Seth, I would love to hear another, I don't know about how other people feel, but I would love another update on COVID for our local area, because I find it really hard to sort out what's Connecticut as a whole versus New York versus others, and what impact, where are we in that process? And it changes all the time. So I don't know if you feel, if it's appropriate to ask again for another update of that topic, but it certainly is the topic that we would like to keep on top of.
The health director loves to talk to people.
Totally agree with Lois.
I agree, Lois. I agree.
No, not a problem. I'll invite the health director.
Thanks, Mike.
Seth?
Yes, sir.
Just a thought, sir. If we're planning on a practice session on how to use GoToMeeting or whichever the platform is, could we not use 10 minutes that night to talk folks through it, 15 minutes up front? I guess it's...
Yeah, well, that's what I don't know if it's that long, but it would hit the high points. We would have a practice session ahead of time so that there's no pressure, that people who felt they needed it could get to it, and they could dialogue and have some time to work on it. And then the pre-meeting announcement would review highlights of the training, if you want to call it that, and just a highlight about how it all works and to remember, how you mute and unmute yourself, that kind of thing.
Understood.
So I'm looking at 2 shots in a way.
Yep.
Anything else?
I do have, Mike, Seth, I have one question. I mean, we talked about that we've agreed that people have to be able to get in through GoToMeeting and not just a phone call in.
Right.
So can we do something to identify anyone who is not able to make that happen and then see what we can do to resolve that?
Yeah. I think when we send out some of these key things right away in a memorandum to everybody in the RTM, we'll find out right away who is going to have a major problem. And then we can try and see if there's some way we can work something out for them.
And I think a group of us would be happy to help out to try and figure out a way to make it happen.
And let me just check this. Cecil, we are with the CASTA system now able to do GoToMeetings live on Darien TV 79 and on our YouTube live channel.
Right.
Didn't Jim test that?
Well, yeah, and actually
The
they were
answer to your
talking.
question is yes. We can broadcast live. Of course, understand that when you do go to webinar, what you're fundamentally seeing is either the documents that are being shown on Kate's computer or Seth's lovely face.
But it's an avenue for the public.
It is definitely an avenue for the public, and that would work.
That they don't have to log into the webinar.
They do not.
So we can have the practice session, we can do a video, and hopefully that will get everybody on the same page.
The one
Okay.
other thing I would say is if we could identify if there's consistently been, a handful of people that are having a hard time, again, to Lois, whoever's other's point, maybe we can identify them, and if they're comfortable with it, even have one of us or someone go over and help them on the practice day so they practice it once. So if there's, Cecil, if you find it's 5 people that have, we know of several that are having a hard time, just let us know and then we can help them out as well. Thank
That's
you.
great.
Sorry, I'm muted. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Did we vote on setting the agenda?
Yes, I believe it
Yeah.
was. Well, no, wait, I think we got in the middle of the vote, and then I
interrupted.
I heard a lot of yeses on just the sewer bond. I don't think I asked for no's. I'll ask for no's now. And I don't hear any, so the sewer bond will be the sole item on the agenda for October 19th.
And then you'll do the health update as part of the announcements? Is that what you're talking about? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Does anyone recall who was the second on that motion?
I think Frank.
Actually, can I ask a question? Is Seth doing the update, or was Mike asking if Mike Knopf could come and do it?
Mike, we're going to have the health director.
Health director to do it.
Okay, so we have to add that in as a line. That's not just under
No,
announcements?
he'll do it under announcements. That's what he
Okay,
said.
thank you for qualifying that.
And given your support, I can add him on give him his own line and just say update on COVID from the health director, and I'll put it in something right after announcement, something like that. Okay.
I need to ask you one more time. I'm sorry, Seth. Who was the second on that motion?
I think I saw Frank second.
Frank, thank you.
I swear it was Frank.
I can't see Frank.
Neither can I. I can't see anybody. That's another one.
I'm waving my.
That's a footnote for me. How the heck do you get this to show you? Anyway, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Wait, we have to vote on the agenda.
We
We have to
did.
vote on setting the agenda.
We did.
Yes, we
We
just
did.
we did.
Okay. Good. Then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Patty, you were in favor.
It's my birthday. I want to go have dinner with my family. I make a motion to adjourn.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Patty.
Happy
All right.
birthday, Patty.
Thank you. Take care. Good night, all. Stay safe.
Thank you, Cecil. Thank you, Cecil, very much.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yes, Cecil, thanks. Thank you, Michael.
Good night.
Second, please.
Good night, all.
Good night.
All in favor,